Bestiaries, bestiaries, bestiaries. What makes a good bestiaries? Is it the bestiaries with a lot of monsters in them? Is it the bestiaries with a lot of lore in them? Is it the bestiaries that have a lot of different kinds of monsters in them? Or are it the bestiaries that stick to a particular theme that get used the most? Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Tarask, and today I want to talk about, you guessed it, bestiaries. And more specifically, I want to talk about the ultimate bestiary, Revenge of the Horde, and I want to talk about the ultimate bestiary, the Dreaded Accursed, both by Nord Games. And the reason for that is I end up using these bestiaries much more than I use certain other bestiaries that I have in my possession. And I have dozens of bestiaries because these are not all of my books, but for some reason I end up using this one and this one much more in my 5th edition games, in my Tales of the Valiant games, and even in my Cypher System games. Yes, I use these for Cypher System as well. So what I want to do in this video is kind of revisit these books and talk to you about what they are, more specifically, and then show you one or two things inside of them that I really like. So what sets the ultimate bestiaries apart, and why do I keep using them in my games? Well, it is because they stick to a particular theme. The first one that I've ever gotten sent to me by Nord Games was the ultimate bestiary, the Revenge of the Horde, which is a bestiary all about horde creatures. And when I talk about horde creatures, I'm talking about bugbears, gnolls, goblins, hobgoblins, kobolds, ogres, okiti, orcs, and trolls. And of course, there's lairs for all set creatures, there's playable races, there's more tools and tricks how to use them, and there is a lot of lore for those creatures. So they have a section for every type of creature, and it always starts with a bunch of lore, and then they have all kinds of creatures, different creatures you can use for your 5th edition game or beyond, and it's really cool, but it was a little bit on the thinner side, just to be completely perfectly fair with you. It's only 200 pages. It's still like a good bestiary to have, but it was only 200 pages thick, and then they released the ultimate bestiary, the Dreaded Accursed. Now, if you've been on my channel for a while, this actually spawned an adventure for me. Isle of the Dreaded Accursed. Isle of the Dreaded Accursed is an adventure that I put out. You can buy it on DriveThruRPG, print, whatever, link in the description below. That is just based on this bestiary. So for that full adventure, while I was writing it and playing through it with my players, I used almost entirely this bestiary outside of like a few encounters with beasts and monsters that I came up for myself, because those weren't like really undead creatures. Yes, this is a book all about undead, and when I talk about undead, I will be talking about ghosts, ghouls, ghasts, liches, lycanthropes, mongerfolk, mummies, revenants, shadows, skeletons, specters, vampires, wights, will-o-wisps, wraiths, and zombies. And then of course there's animated object, there's a lot of player options, more than the other one, and there's lair maps and that kind of stuff. And both of these are incredibly cool. This one was a little bit on the thinner side, but did something that I, to this day, really love, and it's kind of set an example for myself to do it more in my own books, which I will be talking about in a little bit when I open the PDF. And then this one just like increased on the first one. It is one of those incredible bestiaries that sticks to a theme, and that is why I wanted to do this video. More often than not, I find myself picking up a bestiary that sticks to a theme. If you know me, you know that I like usability. And although other companies have incredible bestiaries with all kinds of monsters, the problem there is that they kind of sometimes have all kinds of monsters. Meaning that if you, for example, want dinosaurs, you want to play a campaign or a part of a campaign, and you want to have a lot of dinosaurs in a jungle section of your campaign, right? You need to go pick different types of books from your shelf and look through the dinosaur section just to find some dinosaurs here, find some dinosaurs there, find some other dinosaurs there, and then most people do like all of the same dinosaurs all the time. Like there's always like a Triceratops and a Tyrannosaurus Rex and then whatever, all of those other the Velociraptor and that kind of stuff. With this, you only need one book. So that is, I really like the usability of this. This is one of those books that sits on your shelf, right? Like this, or like this, and the moment you need it, you pick it up, and it is exactly what you need. You don't need to go search for something. The Cypher System Bestiary kind of did the same thing. They have, for every genre of play, they have some things which is really handy. You're like, oh, we're playing a horror campaign, let's just skip to the horror section, find a monster there. This is all about zombies and skeletons and all of that stuff. And Isle of Dreaded Accursed, my own adventure, plays on an island which is full of like undead monsters with liches and that kind of stuff, all based on this one. And yeah, it's those books that just sit on your shelf and just get used when they get used and you don't need anything else. So this might be the monster book that I haven't used it in a while, but it is probably the monster book that I've used the most for my 5th edition games. This is like when I play 5th edition and I need an orc or a troll, especially on like the lower levels like tier 1 and tier 2, this one really comes into play. It's super cool, super handy for those lower tier encounters to make them a little bit more interesting than just a bunch of goblins attacking a camp or whatever. They're always like somewhat different, more Nord gamesy, if you know what I mean. So without further ado, let's take a quick look at the PDF of both, and I just want to kind of like show you what's inside and why I absolutely love these. And here they are, ladies and gentlemen, the Ultimate Bestiary Dreaded Accursed and the Ultimate Bestiary Revenge of the Horde. Now this one says Game Master's Toolbox. At a certain point in time, the Nord Games has like made all of their books into like Game Master's Toolbox thingy, and they changed the thing. This is still like, I think it's the old cover or whatever. I think you can now buy this one, if I'm not mistaken, also with like Game Master's Toolbox on top of it or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but I think it goes that way. So the Ultimate Game Master's Toolbox, The Revenge of the Horde. As you can see, it's all about Horde creatures. So what they do really well is they have a lore section on every monster. For example, we start right here on bugbears, and they have this entire lore thing on their like there's an introduction section which is already like half a page, right? Then there is about their culture, about their environment, role-playing bugbears, how you can role-play them, language and common names, so what their names could be. So if you need like a quick name, somebody might like, I don't know, keep one of the bugbears they're fighting alive, and then there's like let me ask you your name, and then you as a game master just have a bunch of names, right? And combat tactics. So this is much more than like a generic a bestiary that just has a monster and then like a little block of lore or whatever tied to it. This has more. So this is less types of monsters than another bestiary, but it has more lore on that type. So if you're looking for a certain type of monster kind of book, then this is better for you. If you just want a bestiary to flip through and have more different kinds of monsters, that might be better for you. There's also a section about combat tactics, war bands, which is really cool. This is something they did really well, where you just have like a CR 1 to 4, you roll a d8. Let's say you roll, do I have a d8? Let's just roll a d8 off for CR 1 to 4. Roll a d8. I rolled a 7, which is 2 bugbear, which is CR4, 2 bugbear archers, 1 bugbear cutthroat, and 1 bugbear brute. As you can see, it goes all the way up to level 17, 20, like all levels of play for 5th edition. But I like this book particularly better for the first tiers. I don't know. For me, Horde monsters are just the coolest on the lower levels of play for some reason. It might just like be my gaming style, my DMing style, I don't know, I have no idea. And then they go into stat blocks. And one more thing that I want to point out about this one is, let me see, is that every monster, not every monster type, but every monster has a weapons, armor, and items random rolling table. So if you kill a bugbear archer, you as a game master could roll a d12. Do I have a d12? Yes, I have a d12, of course. I play D&D, of course I have a d12. I rolled a 5, so 1d4 days of dried meat rations. So the players find a d4, they find 3 days of rations, 3 days worth of dried meat rations. But they could also find a quiver containing 2 1d4 arrows, kind of like that, right? Bugbears usually prefer close combat, but are intelligent enough to see the value of archers. There's always like this little bit of extra information together with some really cool art. For every creature within the bugbear family, they have something as like a weapons, armor, and items table. And also, this book has one of my favorite creatures ever. And it's this one, the Dragon Kobold Mutant, which I think is incredibly cool, and I even based an entire encounter on this on my game, which I ran for all of my parties, and even a version of that encounter is in the Quintessential Guide to Monster Encounters, a book that I've written together with other people, and it is, I think I even have a dedicated old and crappy video on the encounter, and the encounter is super exciting. It is this mine cart that goes circles inside of like a mountain thingy, and it goes down, and the players are in this minecart just going like in circles all the way down, spiraling down, and in the middle are three dragon kobold mutants just flying there, just hanging still, and they're trying to shoot and kill the players while they go around, and the players are shooting an immobile object in the sky, and the kobolds are trying to shoot a moving minecart. So there's a lot of like 3D kind of stuff going on. I think I have a video on it. If I can still find it, I will link it right here somewhere. There's a video card. The Dragon Kobold Mutant is incredibly cool. It is basically a flying dragon kobold. Dragon kobold are a section in the book, and they have fire breath potion and ice breath potions. So they're hanging in the sky, right? And they drink this fire breath potion. After drinking this potion, a bonus action: the mutant kobold can exhale fire at a target within 30 feet. The target must make a DC 13 Dexterity saving throw, taking 14 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much as a successful one. The effect ends, and it's kind of like the same thing with the ice breath thingy. Mutant kobold exhales fire 3 times in 1 hour. Yes, it's almost exactly the same for fire breath and ice breath. But the cool thing is, they also have flasks of alchemist fire, which are basically Molotov cocktails. Now, in my fantasy, these are the same thing. So I always have my players, after this encounter, I always have them find like a crate with these potions, and these potions, you can throw them. When you throw them, they explode in fire or they explode in ice, but you can also drink them to give you that fire breath or ice breath weapon. That's the way I've always played them. I absolutely love this. This is a creature you need to use, and if you're looking for a great encounter to use them, just check out the video or go buy the Quintessential Guide to Monster Encounters. And then there is the ultimate bestiary, the Dreaded Accursed. Bigger and better than Revenge of the Horde. Well, not necessarily better, because it's just completely different, because it focuses on undead monsters, as this one focuses on Horde monsters. Now, in practice, I've used this more than I have used the Dreaded Accursed, and that's because my campaigns don't have that many undead monsters as some people's campaigns do have. Now, I'm not saying I don't use it. I use it a lot, but I also play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, Tales of the Valiant. So yeah, this is really cool for those people who have like zones or dungeons or parts of their world that are riddled with undead creatures. This is an absolute must buy. Now, it follows kind of like the same premise as the first one. It comes with like every section. For example, the ghost section has this entire introduction section, half a page for ghosts, the origin of ghosts, environment where they live, well, or not live, role-playing ghosts. There is an entire part about combat tactics, and then there's a ghosts encounter table, for example, a CR3, one, a CR5, one, CR7, CR10, all that stuff, right? And it comes, of course, like always, with incredible cool art, and then they go into all different kinds of ghosts. Now, these are all ghost sections, so it's all the same thing as Revenge of the Horde. They have a bunch of different creatures, a bunch of different kinds of creatures, liches, lycanthropes, mongerfolk, mummies, revenants, specters, vampires, rides, will-o-wisp, wraiths, zombies, ghouls, ghasts, ghosts, all that kind of stuff, right? So one thing that I really like about this, so one thing that I need to say this, I need to point this out, something that I like a little bit less, is that they left out the random rolling tables per creature. Now, I've talked to Nord Games about that a long time ago, and they said like it didn't make as much sense as Revenge of the Horde because they're undead, and undead aren't necessarily always carrying stuff around. Often they're just like this, right? They're a skeleton with some armor and sword, and everything else they don't really care about, like especially like the lower level zombies and skeletons. They don't care about like magic items, that kind of stuff, because they are not smart enough for that, right? Yeah, I just want to skip really quickly to, I want to show you two things: my favorite creature from this book that I used in Isle of Dreaded Accursed, and the player options, because player options are also like really pretty damn cool. And my favorite creature in this book is a skeleton, not just a skeleton. So as you can see, it has an entire section about skeletons, what their combat tactics are, environments, role-playing skeletons, skeleton encounter tables, and then stat blocks like we know and love them. But the coolest skeleton in here has to be, I'm scrolling, I'm still on, oh, the Minotaur skeleton, by the way, is also like really, really cool. But here it is, the Skeletal Dragon, or like JVC Perry always says, the Skeletal Dragon. I really love this guy. This is the end encounter of my book, Isle of the Dreaded Accursed, a adventure that I've written with JVC Perry, and we've used this guy as our final encounter, which was really, really, really cool. Yeah, so it's just a really cool dragon. First of all, it has a wing attack, it has a tail attack, it has everything, bite attack. It has that skeletal appearance. While the Skeletal Dragon is lying still, it is indistinguishable from a mundane skeletal corpse. It can still be detected by Detect Evil and Good Spell or similar magic. Now, I really like that, because I always introduce this Skeletal Dragon as like a pile of bones, and I always introduce it, my players always fall for it. There is this pile of bones in a lair, and my players always think it's just all of the animals the creature has eaten, which probably it is at some point of its life, but then it became undead and became a skeleton, and it's just lying inside that pile of bones, of human bones and animal bones and whatever other creatures' bones there are in this big gigantic pile. This creature is like kind of lying on top of it, right? But it is indistinguishable from everything that is going on. My players never suspect there being a Skeletal Dragon. Because it's also a kind of dragon that you just don't encounter that much, but it's really cool. Also, Poor Flyer is really cool. The dragon's skeletal wings can't hold it for long, aloft for long. If it starts its turn flying, it must end its turn on the ground or fall prone. I really like that. I really like there being some kind of weakness to this, having holes in its wings and just not being a really good flyer anymore. And just like it can fly like short distances, it goes up, and then if it starts its turn flying, it can still like do everything it needs to do in that turn, but then it really needs to land, because otherwise it will fall prone and even take falling damage. They don't state that it would take falling damage, but I would just like assume that if it's like 20 feet up in the air, it will take 2d6 falling damage if it doesn't go down to land on the ground, right? That's the way I perceive it. The Skeletal Dragon has a faded connection to the elemental energy it possessed during life. The damage type of the skeleton's breath weapon is acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison, depending on the damage type. It had in life. Additionally, the dragon has resistance to that damage type as well. So also really cool, because you could really hint, and I've done this before, you could really hint towards like, I don't know, a black dragon lair, right? And players are looking for this black dragon, and they come into all kinds of creatures that are like swamp creatures, and they're like, yeah, we're in the vicinity of a black dragon, we're gonna find it. Then they come into the lair, and they see this big pile of bones in a black dragon's lair, but they don't see a black dragon. They will not suspect that there is an actual skeletal dragon inside that pile of bones. Its breath weapon is called a residual breath. The Skeletal Dragon exhales a faded version of its breath weapon energy in a 40-foot cone. Creature stat area must make a DC 19 Constitution saving throw or take a shit ton of damage on a failed save, half as much damage on a successful one. So the reason I like this as much as isn't necessarily in like its breath weapon or its claw, bite, and tail attack and its wing attack and that kind of stuff. It's more in the way you can present it and use it as a game master to really steer your players towards a green dragon's lair or a white dragon's lair, and them coming up to a pile of bones and not suspecting there being a skeletal dragon in there at all. And lastly, I want to quickly go over the player options they have right here, because this is really cool. They have some monstrous classes in here, like, for example, a Lich as a class. Now, these are all kind of like subclasses, and you need like pre-requirements. Need to meet pre-requirements in order to be able to play them. There's a Lich one, which you can play if you have any spellcasting class feature. So, if you are playing a wizard with the spellcasting class feature, or an other spellcaster with the spellcasting class feature, you can play a Lich, but you need to also do things role-playing wise and kind of stuff to become that Lich. It kind of depends on your game master, how deep they want to go with that, with the backstory. And then there's a section on lycanthropes, which is really cool, because when you think lycanthrope, you always go to like the werewolf, right? But they actually give you like one big so there's it goes all the way up to level 10. So it's level 1, level 2, level 3. It goes up all the way up to level 10, and it has like this one lycanthrope overarching thing that all lycanthropes can get. And then at certain particular levels, you gain something from, depending on the beast you were bitten by, or whatever lycanthrope you choose to be. The were-bet, the were-bear, the were-boar, the were-panther, were-rat, were-raven, were-tiger, were-wolf. What's a werewolf? Werewolf, stupid creature. Which is really cool. For example, you always get like a power in your humanoid form, in your hybrid form, or your animal form. Now, most of the time, you get like both your hybrid form and your animal form. You get beast fangs, wolf form, predatory speed, wolf claws, that kind of sense. But then at level 7, everybody gets senses that are for their humanoid form, their hybrid form, and their animal form. Tiger senses, wolf senses, their were-raven gets mimicry. Let's just read that. Starting at 7th level, you can mimic simple sounds you have heard, such as whispering, screams of pain, or the cries of a wild animal. A creature that hears a sound can identify them as imitations with a successful wisdom check. The DC for this check is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier, which is really cool. That kind of stuff. You have wolf senses, tiger senses, what's your rat senses? Most of these are just like senses, if I'm not mistaken. Bear senses, bat senses, that kind of stuff. Now, let's scroll down. There's more in here. There is player races like the Awakened Dead, which I really like, the Ghast, the Mungerfolk, the Rite, and then there is a Becoming a Revenant section. This is a really short piece in this book, but it's really, really, really cool. If a player character is unjustly murdered, they may wish to seek vengeance against those who inflicted this injustice upon them. If the GM and player agree, the character may return as a revenant. While they are a revenant, the character cannot pass on to their afterlife or be resurrected by any means. So the revenant is basically you become an undead version of yourself that is resistant to a shit ton of damage, that is quite powerful at the point you become it, but you can also not gain any levels. So you are kind of stuck in that in-between life and death situation. You cannot gain levels. You have regeneration, you have dark vision, you have vengeful strike, so you dish out more damage to the person who killed you in the first place. Then, when you end up killing the person who killed you, you basically can go to the afterlife. That's basically what it is. You could, for example, I don't know, have a campaign where there is this magical power that everybody who gets killed within this area that has this necrotic energy going on, everybody who gets killed there becomes a revenant. And everybody is like, so one of the player characters gets killed, you give them a chance to become a revenant. Now they want to still continue on that quest with the alive versions of the party and go and kill that boss that dished out that damage to them. I think this is really only one page 250 of the book, and this is something that I've used quite often and that I present to my players quite often because I really, really absolutely love it. And that was just me revisiting these old friends on my channel because I haven't talked about them in a while, but I really wanted to point out that I really absolutely still use them and I absolutely love them. I even use them for my Cypher System game. No, these don't have Cypher System stat blocks, but I just like convert them while playing to Cypher System stat blocks, and I just use their lore and everything else that is in it for inspiration for my Cypher System games. But I use it for 5th edition, Tales of the Valiant. Whenever I need an undead monster, I pick up this one from my shelf. When I need a horde monster like, I don't know, a troll, I pick up this one from my shelf. And good news, there's also another one. There is one all about fake creatures. I don't have that in my possession for the simple reason that I seldomly play campaigns that have a lot of fake creatures. So it would end up on my shelf, never to probably be used ever again. But these two, man, I cannot tell you how many hours of game time I had with these two. And until next video, bye bye.